Okay, well, we may have some other people join, but I'd love to get underway. So I would like to hand over to our guest speaker for the evening. Thank you very much for giving us your time, and thank you for being here. If I can hand over to Angela Sherwin.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me. Hopefully you are seeing a blue screen now, and any moment now you'll see my first slide. Awesome.
We do. Fantastic.
So yeah, my name is Angela. I'm a PhD student at the University of Canterbury. And I'm doing a PhD looking at the efficacy of zinc and B6 as a treatment for anxiety, and I'm doing some biochemistry looking at a potential urinary biomarker, a pyrrole in urine, that might indicate mental health disorders. So in terms of mental health disorders, about 1 in 5 of the population suffer from some sort of disorder at some time in their lives. And the most common ones are depression and anxiety. And if you think about 1 in 5 people in the global population and then compare that to New Zealand, 1 in 5 people of the New Zealand population live in the South Island. So that gives you an idea of how many people in New Zealand might actually have some form of mental health disorder, whether it's diagnosed or undiagnosed. That's quite a large number of people who are suffering some form of mental health disorder. There are current treatments of mental health disorder. There's the pharmacological, your medications, your psychological with psychiatrists doing various talk therapies and treatments that psychiatrists do. And there's physiological treatments like your rapid eye movement desensitization, mindfulness, meditation, those sorts of things. In terms of the things that I know about for anxiety, pharmacological intervention is the best, but of course anxiety comes with side effects. I just need to move something out of the way that's just distracting me. Hang on, there we go, gone. So yeah, medications can come with side effects, headaches, sexual dysfunction, nausea, somnolence, weight gain, abnormal heart rhythms, some evidence of increased suicidality, although that's debated in some areas. And pharmacological medications do work for a lot of people, but they don't work for everybody. And if they worked really well, then numbers of people with mental health disorders wouldn't be increasing, they would be decreasing. So we need to look for new ways to prevent and treat mental health disorders. In terms of where mental health disorders come from, they're many and varied, but there are lots of things we can't change, like your genetics, your life experiences, family history, social disadvantage, interpersonal violence, trauma, abuse, neglect. All of these things have happened to you before you end up with your mental health disorder. So we can't change those because that's history. So we need to target things that we can make a difference to and can change. And one big thing we can change about what we do and how we live our lives is our diet. So there's lots of research out there that suggests that diet is a real risk factor for mental health problems. So diets high in fruits, vegetables, legumes, whole grains, nuts and seeds, oily fish, they clearly indicate that people who eat those healthy diets have a reduced incidence of mental illness. And the evidence suggests that people who eat a diet processed with high processed foods, sugars, red meats, trans fats, that kind of diet is closely linked with increased incidences of mental health disorders. A lot of the research the research that I'm going to be talking about particularly was on the Mediterranean style diet. But from what I understand, this goes with any ancestral kind of diet. So a traditional Maori kai, traditional Japanese food, traditional foods and traditional ways of eating, like your fresh fruit and vegetables and meat and seafood, locally produced and locally grown, minimally processed, and ideally local. So the relationship between diet quality and mental health outcome is found across the age range, across cultures and genders, and it's not explained for by other risk factors. There are some risk factors for mental health that we know about. Early life exposure to nutrition is quite a big one. So a pregnant woman who's malnourished is more likely to have offspring with schizophrenia and depression. A pregnant woman who subsists on a Western style diet is more likely to have offspring with depression, anxiety, ADHD, aggression and trauma and tantrums, A pregnant woman who has a healthy diet is more likely to have offspring with enhanced cognitive development. So it's clear that diet's important for our mental health even before we've been born. So we have to think about our mental health for all of our lives, really. This doesn't mean that a bad diet causes mental health. We kind of need to understand whether changing diets would improve our mental health, and studies absolutely suggest that it does. But what about risk factors? There's a lot of work underway these days looking for biomarkers for mental health disorders. So, for instance, I'm studying anxiety, and a bit of anxiety is adaptive. It's actually really useful to have a little bit of anxiety because it gives you that bit of an edge. It helps your brain switch on. It helps you be aware of what's happening in your surroundings. But these days, because of the way we live our lives, sometimes our anxiety just gets overly heightened and then we're not able to calm it down again. I mean, these days, if you walk around a corner, you're not likely to come face to face with a lion. But ancestrally, historically, evolutionarily, that bit of anxiety may have protected you from being eaten by that lion. But of course, it's not there these days. So we have to understand and live with our anxiety differently. But of course, everybody's different. The way my body processes food could be different to the way that your body processes food. My gut microbiome is going to be different to all of yours. So how our microbiome deals with the food that we put into it is going to be very slightly different. Excuse me. There's also a theory that food is less nutrient dense these days than it was 60 years ago. Some of that might be due to soil depletion and use of herbicides and pesticides, and some of that might be due to modern varieties that are designed to grow fast. My understanding is that we know from studies on global warming that if a plant grows quickly, it doesn't actually put down as much nutrient as it would do if it grew a little more slowly. So modern varieties of food that are great for the farmers because they grow quickly and they can get to the market quickly aren't necessarily quite so good for the end user because they're not so nutrient dense. So global warming is going to have an effect there as well because the more CO2 there is in the atmosphere, this is what I've been led to believe recently, that the more CO2 there is in the atmosphere caused by global warming, the faster plants will grow. And as I say, the faster they grow, the less time they have to put down the nutrients that they need. So, individual factors like your gut microbiome, how and where you source your food might have a difference on how your body processes what you eat, but also genetic factors are involved. So individuals might have genetic inflammatory problems or genetic problems that prevent their cells from processing the metabolites in the way that they're supposed to be processed and absorbed. And one thing that really got me when I first heard about it was this generational effect. And the egg that grew you started life in your grandmother. So whatever happened to your grandmother when she was pregnant with your mother could quite possibly have an effect on you and how you are now, what your mental health is, what your physical health is now. That kind of blew my mind when I thought about it, especially as my grandmother was a smoker. So there's lots of work underway at the moment looking for biomarkers for mental health disorders. And I'm looking for one in my study. I'm looking for a biomarker for anxiety. But I'm not a chemist, but luckily I've got a really great supervisor who is a chemist. So he's helping me massively with that. So obviously blood's pumped around your body every minute of every day. Your brain is about 2% of your body weight, but it uses 15 to 20% of the blood supply. So your blood supply takes oxygen, glucose, nutrients, messengers, waste products in and out of it between it's the blood-brain barrier, isn't it? Your blood goes up to your blood-brain barrier, takes all those things in, takes away all the waste products and sends out the messages that it has to send to the rest of the body. So nutrients are needed to produce hormones such as dopamine and serotonin. Those are your feel-good hormones. If you don't have enough nutrients in your body, then you don't have what's needed to generate or to create those feel-good hormones, the dopamine and the serotonin, and the whatever else that happens to be needed. So low nutrition can equal low availability of nutrients for brain function. So again, what you eat is essential for your body to function accurately, because every bodily process, every single bodily process requires some form of micronutrient for it to work. Now, I've been looking at zinc and B6 in my study. Zinc is a group of I beg your pardon, B6 is a group of vitamins. There are 6 B6 vitamins. And one of them, PLP, pyridoxal 5-phosphate, there are 140 pyridoxal 5-phosphate dependent enzymes. So that's 140 enzymes in your body that will not function if you don't have enough B6. And we know that B6 is involved in the production of GABA, which is an inhibitory neurotransmitter known to be involved with anxiety. And the same with zinc, that has the potential to bind to nearly 3,000 proteins. And again, some of those are involved in GABA and serotonin uptake. So we know that zinc and B6 are intrinsically involved in mental health. And I'm going to be, part of the chemistry that I'm doing is looking for a urinary pyrrole that's called HPL. It supposedly binds with zinc and B6 and excretes them via the kidneys through in your urine. So that's something I'm going to be looking at and doing lots of tests on urine. Excuse me. So micronutrients can act as enzymes and coenzymes to help functions in the body do what they're supposed to do, to help build proteins and build muscles and build all sorts of things. You know, everything that happens in your body requires micronutrients at some stage during their production. And of course, if you don't have them, things aren't going to work the way they ought to work. These two studies, there's the SMILES trial and the Healthy Med trial, they both came out of Australia. Both looked at Mediterranean diets. So the SMILES trial, for instance, they had 2 groups of people. There was the intervention group that consisted, and the intervention group had 7 individual nutritional consulting sessions delivered by a clinical dietitian. So they were told how to eat a healthy Mediterranean diet. And then the control group was the participants in the control group had 7 sessions of social support. And we know from studies that social support is massively important to support individuals' mental health. So the, where was I going with that? I completely lost my thread. Here we go. So the SMILES trial was 2 groups of people, those that were told and shown how to eat a healthy diet, and those who were just given a form of social support. There was no talking about diet or mental health, it was just conversations. That was the SMILES trial. And in the Healthy Med trial, the treatment group, they were given fortnightly food hampers and Mediterranean style cooking workshops and fish oils. They had quite a big intervention. And the control group there, again, were just given social support. So the results were quite similar between the 2 studies. There was a greater reduction in depressive symptoms in the treatment group. So those that were told how to eat healthily, or those that were given food to eat healthily with, they had a greater improvement in their symptoms. And the better they improved their diet, the more they did, the better their diet was, the more their symptoms improved. And there was also greater remission rates. So in the SMILES trial, 8% of those people in the control group, or the social support group, they improved to such an extent that they no longer met criteria for clinical depression. But 32% of those who had the instructions on healthy diet, they improved so much so they didn't actually meet criteria for clinical depression by the end of the study. And that's quite a big number. Now, that shows quite a big difference between the 2 groups. So a healthy diet is clearly implicated in improving and sustaining your mental health. There was people have often worried about how easy or how expensive it is to have a healthy diet. But one of these studies, I forget which one of them, actually worked it out, and they worked out that they were actually spending $26 less on the healthy Mediterranean style diet than the participants were previously, prior to the study, on their normal diets. So there was actually a saving rather than a cost to having a healthy, balanced Mediterranean style diet. But of course, not everybody can eat healthily, and not everybody who does eat healthily gets the benefit because of what we said a few minutes ago about the things, their individual differences, and where people get their food from. So micronutrients can be absolutely essential for some people. If you're a normal healthy person, you don't need an extra micronutrient. But if you're a person who's got any kind of health issue that causes a problem with your digestion, then a micronutrient might be massively beneficial for you. Or you might be a person who has a particular genetic disorder whereby you don't process something that some part of your body needs to develop something else that another part of your body needs. So micronutrients can be hugely beneficial for some people. And generally speaking, they contain vitamins, minerals, and amino acids. So that's one way that we can increase nutrition available in our bodies, is to supplement with these vitamins and minerals. So a micronutrient is a term that's used to combine as a combination of essential vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, amino acids, all those things that we can obtain from our food, but a sort of an extra boosting dose, if you like. But micronutrients used in studies are often at higher doses than the recommended daily allowance that we can typically get from our diet or from a one-a-day multivitamin pill from the supermarket. So you can get some benefit from micronutrients that you can buy over the counter, but the ones that we use in our studies, they are quite high levels of micronutrients to give that extra boost and take you over the line, if you like, the extra bit that people might need. Lots of studies have looked at single nutrients and suggested that either they don't work, and from our perspective, that's right. We don't think single nutrients do work. We think that a balance is required. You need a little bit of everything. We know from some studies that what was I looking at the other day? Oh yes, vitamin D, for instance. For your body to absorb and process vitamin D, it needs vitamin K, magnesium, and zinc. So if you just take a vitamin D tablet on its own, it might not actually do you any good because you need the other things to go with it. So everything in balance is what's required. So some studies suggest that micronutrients don't work. Many only use one or a few nutrients rather than a full broad spectrum. Some studies on single nutrients are inconsistent when compared with conventional psychiatric treatments, and they don't tend to fare well. Some of the studies even don't test participants who have clinical problems. So some of these studies who are poo-pooing micronutrients are sort of saying, look, we've tested this on these people and found nothing. But if you look at the information, you'll see that in some instances, they've tested single nutrients on people with no psychiatric problems at all and found no improvements. Well, to me, that's not surprising. You know, you treat somebody who doesn't have a problem, they're not going to get better because there's no problem for them to get better from. So it can be a bit tricky when you read newspaper headlines that say micronutrients don't work. And then if you look down into the detail of it, you can see why it hasn't worked. And there's a clear reason for it not having worked. The products that we study have over 30 vitamins, minerals, and other compounds that are essential for bodily function. So it makes more sense nutritionally and scientifically to examine the effects of micronutrients when given in combination. So you examine them as a whole rather than individually. There is no magic bullet. There's no one micronutrient that will fix this and no one micronutrient that will fix that. Lots and lots of studies have been done on micronutrients over the years, on broad spectrum micronutrients. And there are a variety of different ones. In the products that we study, I said there are over 30 vitamins and minerals. So over the past decade, evidence has accumulated showing benefits of broad spectrum micronutrients from a variety of mental health problems, including ADHD in children and adults, post-traumatic stress disorder after earthquakes, floods, the mosque attack in Christchurch, for instance. There was a study done on that. Autism and addiction, including reduction in cannabis use, and people are more likely to quit smoking if they take micronutrients. And there's also been shown a reduction in aggression in prisoners and in cognitive decline in the elderly. So the overall common theme for these studies are improved irritability, improved depression, improved anxiety, improved emotional regulation, and a better ability to manage aggression and stresses. So taking the research as a whole, overall, a well-nourished brain is more likely to withstand stresses and strains of life, more likely to recover from mental illness, and more likely to recover a little more quickly. From what I understand, every trial using nutrients that has been used to treat people with psychiatric symptoms have shown micronutrients to be beneficial, to have beneficial effects, and to do so without side effects and no habituation to the treatment. So every study works. Every study has shown that micronutrients work on psychiatric symptoms for participants who have psychiatric problems. But those psychiatric problems don't have to be the big ones. They can be the broader ones, the ones that all of us suffer from time to time. You know, anxiety and depression are the two main ones that the most of us will suffer from at some point in our lives. And the suggestion from the study is if we up our nutrition, we'll support ourselves in being able to get through that period of depression or anxiety. So there are two studies that are happening at the Mental Health and Nutrition Research Group at the moment. One is my PhD called the Happy Trial. I'm looking for females who are 18 years and over who score 10 or more on the GAD-7, which is like a guide to how anxious a person is. They don't need to be clinically diagnosed with anxiety. I can take them through the GAD-7 and we can work out what their level might be. They need to not be taking any medications or many medications. I wouldn't say any because there are some that are okay. It's New Zealand wide, and I'll be giving them really high doses of zinc and B6 and collecting urine samples on various occasions throughout the trial. And then Professor Rutledge has got the Toiora trial going on at the moment. She's looking at emotional dysregulation in teens. Again, they can't be taking any medications. It's New Zealand wide. And the emotional dysregulation is really quite severe. It's not your normal teenage temper tantrum stuff. It's the emotional dysregulation whereby the teens actually have problems with their everyday lives, with their relationships with family and friends and school. So it's really quite dysregulated rather than just your normal average teen. So a quick disclosure, we have no commercial interest in the company that provides our micronutrients that we use. So we don't sell any direct to the public either. And obviously there are many causes of mental health disorders, and there are instances where they may not be helped by micronutrients, and medication obviously works for a lot of people, but it doesn't work for everybody. So these are my contact details. I have my email address. My website is this one, and then Professor Rutledge's website is that one. We have Mental Health and Nutrition Group on Facebook and on Instagram. And if you're interested in finding out about the micronutrients that we use, if you email this address, I will send you a sheet of all the information that we have. I think, let me just double check, but I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover. I think I rambled through that rather more quickly than I expected to. So yeah, micronutrients contained in the products that we examine are just vitamins and minerals that provide higher doses than can typically be obtained in the diet. A dose typically falls between the recommended daily allowance, which is your minimum amount of nutrient to prevent a deficiency, and the upper limit, which is your maximum daily intake, unlikely to cause any adverse effects. So many people have gone through our trials, both children and adults, and we haven't found any adverse side effects. People do report side effects, but usually if they think about it, they can tie those side effects to something else that's been happening in their lives. But quite often, if people do report side effects, there's no difference between the side effects reported for the treatment group and the side effects reported for the placebo group. So the thinking there is that they are consequential rather than caused by the micronutrients. So yeah, I think that's me. We know from the studies that we've done that mental health is supported by really good nutrition. And if your body isn't able to process good nutrition on its own, then adding in a supplement, a micronutrient, can and often is beneficial for the individual.
Excellent. I'm just going to try and get the normal screen back. That was wonderful, Angela. Thank you so much. So many fascinating things to take on board there. I'm sure you'll all agree. When you were talking about taking something like vitamin D, and that our bodies may not actually capture it so much because we haven't got the others in place to actually absorb what we need to absorb. That's fascinating for me, because I've been one of the people that would take a supplement like vitamin D but not actually think about the other vitamins, the K, all of the others that you just mentioned.
Yes.
That's yeah. And I've always been astounded by the market that is out there for supplements and vitamins. You know, every time I go into a large, well, especially somewhere like the chemist warehouse, and you see just all of these different ones, and you think, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But once you're explaining all those micronutrients and their role, it becomes far more apparent why there is such a market for it.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
My apologies, I can't figure out how to stop sharing. I can't seem to
there's a view option at the top.
Oh, I know where it is. There we go. I'm looking at the wrong screen. That's why.
There we go. Right. Have we got any questions there?
I've got a question. I wanted to ask Angela specifically about the vitamin D. It needed to be taken with magnesium and one other. You mentioned.
I was looking at it yesterday. I just did a quick Google search, and I think it said vitamin K, magnesium, and zinc. So on its own, it might help, but with the extra things that it works with and work together with it might be better.
Yeah.
But I'm not an expert on that, so I don't know. That was just something I Googled yesterday, so I could include it in the talk.
Thank you.
Did we have another question there?
No. I'm not sure about the sound here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We can. I can just hear you. Yeah, but that might be my computer.
The headset didn't work, so I'm back down to the laptop. Thank you, Angela. That was really interesting. I'm just interested in just right at the end. You said, I think if your body can't process these, then you need to take supplement. You know, you might be eating a good diet, but if your body can't process it, so how do you actually know that your body can't? And do you just take the whole works? I'm just wondering how to use this information that you just given us in practice day to day.
I suppose you don't necessarily know if your body's not processing the food properly, but if you have a mental health disorder, if you are anxious or depressed, there is a chance that something is happening inside you that's not working the way it should. And the studies show that if we give people micronutrients above and beyond the diet that they're taking, then a lot of them can be in remission, can get to a stage whereby they no longer reach criteria for mental health disorders. And some of that quite possibly is just happening over time. They're fixing themselves anyway. They're moving away from whatever occurred. Time has helped them heal. But that won't be the same for everybody. So that, the evidence seems to be clear that micronutrients can really help people look after their own mental health. Most people don't need it. Most people are okay. It's only 1 in 5 who suffer from some form of mental health disorder. So these newspaper headlines that suggest that you're wasting your money buying micronutrients, for some people they might be, because they are really healthy, they process everything really well, and they don't need the extra. But if you're suffering in any way, shape or form, trying it out won't hurt you. From what I understand, how did the conversation go? I don't have all the details, so I can't give you the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of, no one's ever been hospitalized from taking a well-balanced micronutrient.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true. And Angela, I would love your take on this. At our meeting on Monday, we were actually talking about micronutrients and the fact that our food labeling system here in New Zealand isn't particularly strong on listing all those micronutrients in the same way that perhaps it is in Europe. What's your kind of take on that? Do you think we could be doing a better job?
I think that's the real bugbear of Professor Rutledge's. She often says that this traffic light system is nonsense. It doesn't matter how much energy there is necessarily, how much sugar there is necessarily in a particular item of food. What matters is the nutrient content. Is it nutrient dense? Are you eating it because it's going to do you some good, or are you eating it because it's going to fill you up?
Right.
It's eating food that's just going to fill you up might be fine for the moment, but it's not going to be fine long term if your body's lacking nutrition. So she kind of says that we really need to have food labelled whereby people know the nutritional content, so they know what nutrition, go buy things based on the nutrition, not based on how much fat or sugar they have.
Absolutely, yeah. And I it was a very topical conversation, and I think it is very relevant that we don't know that breakdown of those micronutrients. And I'm not saying that any particular country or organisation has got that spot on, but I do think that it's something that we could be more aware of as we're making our purchasing decisions, especially given that food can be quite pricey here. And I know you spoke about that. But I think if we buy in season and we're buying from, smaller, maybe, veggie shops and places like that, we can get those fresh fruit and veg at a much more reasonable cost.
And lots of places now do veggie co-ops. And it's not as difficult as people might think to set them up. You can get your vegetables. There's a place in Hornby. Is it in Hornby? It's either in or near Hornby that distributes vegetables to all the supermarkets, and they will allow you to buy directly from them. So if you want to set up your own veggie co-op, you can do that.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm very lucky that I live in Prebbleton and we've got Healthy Harvest here, which is which is amazing.
Yes.
That's a great point, actually. I will find out where our local one is.
Well, there's an organics one in Rolleston. That's called Selwyn Organics. Yeah. And some of the churches in town do their own. There was one in Shirley. When I lived in Shirley, they had one. But you can set them up. It's work, obviously, it's time and it's effort, but it can be done.
Yeah, that's excellent.
And of course, you can grow your own.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yep. Which has all sorts of benefits, not just nutritionally, just good in terms of mental health directly. Yeah.
Getting your hands in the soil, they say it's really good for you, don't they?
Indeed. Look, thank you very much, Angela, for your talk. I've been very interested in the whole aspect of nutrition for health for a long time. I actually went and saw Julia speak some years ago. She gave a talk for the general public, really interested in the work that you guys are leading there. What's the sort of time frame for for these studies, or when the results will be published?
Well, it can take quite a while. For my study, for instance, I haven't started recruiting any participants yet. I'm hoping to start doing that in January. I'm expecting it to take a minimum of a year, maybe 18 months to get all the participants through from beginning to end. And then I have to do the write-up process. So where I'm hoping to have my PhD finished by the end of 2023, at which point we'll have the data then.
Fantastic.
It's certainly a great opportunity, both of those trials, both yours and Julia's. It would be fascinating to see what the outcomes of those are.
Yeah, and quite aligned with some various schools of thought around lifestyle management for multiple sclerosis.
Yeah,
in terms of reducing progression. Yeah, not so much around micronutrients specifically, but less processed food. More fresh food, and avoiding some foods, dairy and gluten containing foods, etc.
Yeah.
But much more than dietary restriction. Much more around a healthy, balanced diet, limiting processed food.
Well, if you think about it in terms of evolution, we've evolved to survive on the food that we can grow locally, the food that we can find locally. Millions and millions of years, humans have subsisted really well, mostly really well, on what they could find within their local area. So your body is attuned to local produce and local healthy grown produce in season. And it's only in the past maybe a couple of 100 years at the most where people have been using more and more processed food. In the past 50 or 60, no, it's probably about 100 years now, isn't it? I suppose, thinking about the date, because we're 2021 already, aren't we? But a lot of the processed food kind of started, I guess, from my understanding, in the sort of World War II-ish area. I don't know if I'm correct there, but you kind of saw a big development of processed food after World War II. And there is a correlation with mental health disorders going up with the more availability of processed food.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. The whole area of food engineering has become so much more impactful in terms of the average diet, Western diet. Now, to cost in all sorts of ways, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's fascinating when you mentioned about our ancestry and how our genes, can go back to our grandmothers, and the fact that,
that's so weird.
That in itself is fascinating, because I certainly look back at my grandmother, who grew everything from scratch, and so did her mother, that was all. And so it makes me wonder, that now that isn't happening so much in our lives, certainly speaking from my experience, maybe that's where, things have had an impact, because we're not getting that same diet and that same balance of all of those fine things that we should be having. It's really fascinating.
It's quite scary to think that whatever happened to your grandmother can and has and does affect you. Studies have shown it.
Totally. Sorry,
hello. Oh, something's happened with your microphone, I think. Maybe the cat stood on your keyboard.
The cat muted me. He's very clever. Oh dear. Oh, has anyone
there was
else
a study done. There was a study done in northern. That's okay. There was a study done in Northern Europe. It was a really unfortunate situation towards the end of World War II. There was a period of starvation. I forget how long it was for, but it might only have been for a short amount of time. But a lot of work's been done on it since then, because there was a clear indication that women in the first trimester of pregnancy who were starving because of this particular situation, the outcome for their children and their grandchildren was significantly worse than the outcome of women who were pregnant before or after. So there was a clear indication that nutrition was essential for the mental health of those particular children and the grandchildren as well. There's a suggestion that epigenetic changes can take 5 generations.
Wow.
So something that happens to your great grandmother can actually happen to your grandchildren as well. It's quite bizarre to think about it.
Definitely. It makes me wonder what I've passed on to my own children. Oh goodness me, or my own grandchildren, great grandchildren. Goodness.
Yes.
That's a scary thought in itself. Have any of our MS members here tried any specific diets at all? Seeing if anyone's coming on. Mike?
I'm trying something loosely along the lines of the Wales diet, which again is very much low processed food.
How do you spell that, Mike?
Wales, so it's WAHLS after Dr. Terry Wales.
Lovely, thank you.
In the States, Yep.
It's been quite popular with a number of our members, Mike.
Yes. Yeah. Alongside the OMS, Overcoming Multiple Sclerosis diet.
From that one. I do the
George
OMS.
Yep.
Excellent.
And both of those emphasise
that,
lots of
Mike?
fresh food and vegetables. How do I find it? I'm pretty good with it. and definitely feel have been feeling very good. And as to what impact it's having on my progression of MS, very, very difficult to know. It's been a very long and very slow progression. In any case, even before I started on the diet a couple of years ago now. So it's very difficult to tell what impact it's having on my multiple sclerosis, but I do know that I'm feeling pretty good and feeling pretty vital. I'm pretty active, mountain biking a lot. So yeah, it's just a little bit complex to living in a family situation when you've got to try and manage lots of different dietary preferences.
Totally.
Yeah.
Ingrid.
I've been on the OMS diet for a number of years, and like you said, Mike, it's hard to know whether it actually makes a difference, because it could have been just progression of your MS anyway. But there's a lot of people I know that are on the OMS diet, and they've had good feedback from like Dr. Mason, and they've said, you know, she said to them, keep it up. It's when they've done MRIs and stuff like that, they just made the comment, whether it's actually proof or not, some other thing. But I think, you know, it's, to me, the OMS one, it's just like, it's low in saturated fat. It's what probably people should do anyway, because it's just being really healthy, but it's no meat, the OMS one, where you just have fish. Whereas Terry has you on, I tried Terry's diet for a while, and you have meat, you know, you have bacon, and you can have steak, and you can have all the good stuff out there. But when I was on that one, it was really weird, because I had been on the OMS one, and then I thought, well, I'll try Terry's diet. So I went on that, and I'd gone into the supermarket. I had been on it for, I don't know, I would say about 6 months. And I went into the supermarket to do my grocery shopping, and I looked at the meat and couldn't stomach it, and went straight to the fish. It was just really weird. It was just such a feeling. I can't stomach meat, so I went back to my OMS. So, but yeah, I mean, it's the Mediterranean diet's another big one, you know. So I think it's the basic thing is just eat really, really well, and it's trial lots of different ones, and something will sit with you.
Any other comments? I know Professor Rutledge had, it was an actual book that she brought out, wasn't it, Angela?
Yes.
Can you just talk just a little bit around that?
Probably not.
No,
hang on a second. Hang on a second. Let me just see what I can find. Hang on.
I've just got something up here in front of me around you know, the work that she's been doing.
Lost my mouse. Where is it? It's called The Better Brain. Let me see if I can find it for you. Where are we there?
Oh yes, The Better Brain. I've just brought it up here.
It's my mouse again. Where's it gone? There it is.
So it's the first book that will tell you both how and why nutrients can be used to treat mental health issues. Oh, sorry, it's going to open another video for me. I tell you what, it's very good at opening little videos. Bear with me.
It's called The Better Brain. It's about overcoming anxiety, combating depression, reducing ADHD and stress, using nutrition to do it. So a paradigm shifting approach to treating mental disorders like anxiety, depression and ADHD with food and nutrition by two leading scientists who share their original groundbreaking research with readers everywhere for the first time. You can get it in all good bookstores.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Professor Rutledge is a clinical psychologist who's the director of the Mental Health and Nutrition Research Centre at the University of Canterbury, and all of her research has been centred on sort of mental health and nutrition. So yeah, I'm sure that's a very, very good read. Probably download it to your Kindle or your get from your local library, I'm sure, but be fascinating for me even just to learn a bit more about that. We have mental health issues across all of my family, and I tell you what, I was very fascinated by the trials that you're doing, because had my daughter not now turned 20, she would have been fantastic for Julia's one, with the that sort of, oh, I forget the term that you use now, but the behavioural thing. I'm just trying to think of the term that you use.
Emotional dysregulation.
Emotional dysregulation, and hers was of a completely another level, and it had been since she was a baby.
Yeah.
And, you know, many professionals knew that this emotional regulation, she just couldn't regulate, you know, so that would have been fascinating. So I really hope that you get some wonderful candidates put their names forward for that, because
yeah, we've had some really nice participants for that recently. I just wanted to share something else with you as well, actually, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
That one. So Professor Rutledge has done a free online course on nutrition, and it starts, has it started? It might have started a couple of days ago, but I think it's running for a while. And you can log in, and you can do it for free if you, what's the phrase? I think if you request to audit it, you can do it for free. But if you want to pay, you can do it and get a certificate when you finish to show that you've done it.
Fantastic.
And it's a good little course, actually. I've done it, and I think I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, that's excellent. Well, I'd love to share this with all of our members, to be honest, because I think there's a lot of people, even in our, you know, our early onset Parkinson's group, our Smiling group. We've got lots of peer support groups. I think this could be of huge interest to them as well. Well, I'll send you our information sheet when I get a moment, maybe tomorrow, Kate. And then the link for that is in the information sheet. Fantastic. Thank you. Okay. Deb and Elspeth, have you got anything that you would like to add?
So I guess if somebody is interested in these micronutrients, what's your recommendation as far as how do they proceed with it? The reason, one of the reasons I do ask is, you know, some things can be, like you say, have adverse effects, and I know they're not very common, but they can happen, and I have seen it in, you know, past experiences with sort of toxic levels of vitamin B6, where the recommended, you know, they bought a specialty supplement from a nutrition store or whatever, and actually ended up with nerve damage in their face and what have you. So, and obviously, you know, it was probably over a period of time, but again, you know, is there some sort of, should they see a nutritionist maybe, or? From what I understand, the information sheet that we have gives you a telephone number and an email address for the people who provide the micronutrients. And I haven't done this myself, but from what I understand, when you speak to them, they will talk you through what the system is, what the process is. They will tell you whether or not any of the medications that you're on have a negative interaction with the micronutrients. They will, I think in New Zealand, you have to have communication with your GP before you can start taking them. I think that's the case, if I remember rightly. It might be that you can have a few, they can sell you a few just for you to have a go at, but if so, they're not necessarily. Maybe I'm talking out of turn there. I'm not entirely sure because I haven't been through that process myself. But I think, from what I understand, you need to have your GP on board. So we encourage everyone to continue taking any medications that they're taking. But if they want to include micronutrients, they need to talk to their medical professionals about it, and don't do it on their own. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
That's what I've always been told. No matter what you do start, even if it's just supplements and stuff because they can affect it, and tinctures from health shops that you should always get the ingredients checked with your GP.
Absolutely, because there can be an additive effect in it. You're taking one medication over here and taking micronutrients, and there could be something that's interacting, and the two of them could take you up here somewhere. So absolutely, it's important that you link in with your medical professionals.
Yeah, because I can't remember exactly which one it was because it was ages ago now, but I used to get a tincture from a health shop. They used to make it up, and I checked it, and my doctor said, no, you're probably best not, because of one of the drugs I was on. So, yeah, so it is safe to do that.
Or you can talk to your pharmacist. The pharmacist often knows more about the medications you're on than your GP.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, Mike. Deb, did you have? Sorry,
I have nothing further to add, but I'm fascinated with this topic, Angela. It's brought up to by a grandmother who believed that food is medicine and you are what you eat. And I'm kind of alarmed that in the last 2 or 3 decades we've moved so far away from what human beings up until this time have been ingesting, and it worries me that when we're not teaching young kids at school enough about nutrition, and teaching young mums enough about nutrition and how much it affects the outcome of the health of their children. I'm fascinated with this subject, and thank you so much for your wisdom and experience and input. It's been fascinating.
It really has. And I think all of us would be really keen to see how you go with your research, with the trials. And we obviously wish you the very best with the rest of your study as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing work that all of you are doing there, and feel very privileged to have been able to have your time this evening to deliver this. So thank you so much, Angela.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
No, you're welcome. We'll I'll carry on just with the group just to go over a few things, but thank you so much, and I look forward to receiving the information that I can pass on to the rest of the group.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you, Angela.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Well, that was excellent. I mean, it's great to have someone with Angela's knowledge come in and speak for us. And I think, we'd love to do even more of this. We've got some great speakers already lined up. I've been speaking to a few people, including a legal speaker who's going to come in and talk about various things. Paul Odlin is going to talk about, in fact, this month, I'm going to get Paul to just do a workshop online around what he can offer with safe biking for those with MS and also with Parkinson. So we're doing that across the board, but we will just put all of that information out to you. And then next year we've got some great speakers, including his name's just gone from me, Matthew Croucher. Thank you, Elspeth. Matthew Croucher. So yeah, it'll be great to just have all of these educational sessions set up so that we can keep the MS peer support group operating as it is, quite sort of intricately, but also have these other opportunities for you to sit in and hopefully do it in person, because I'm really hoping that soon we will be able to be in person. And yeah, just all get together, because I know, this is great, but also we do kind of need that human contact at times, and the opportunity to sort of share things one-to-one with others. So is there anything that or any of you are really looking for in the educational side, bearing in mind that we are planning for 2022? Any specific subjects or speakers? I know that I've asked our early onset group, and we've had some recommendations from them. If anyone comes to mind, or if anyone wants to even share their story, we would love to hear it, even if it's an opportunity for you to sort of share your story. I think it would be great. Linda.
I asked for a talk on mental health with MS, because I quite often see in the support group that we have here in Rolleston that I really struggle to find a speaker. And what I've seen is the people with MS that have stopped working really, really struggle with mental health and depression. And yeah, I would love to hear a little bit more about it, but also how do you help people like that?
Absolutely. What I could do is make contact with a few of the contacts that I know that Carla's got, and maybe our clinical team have got, and see who we could get and get them to talk directly to MS. And yeah, the impact that that's had, because I can only imagine that, you know, when you do stop working and you start your whole day is just changed dramatically. It just must be awful. And I think that's a great topic. So if anyone has any recommendations or has heard anyone that they think would be great, I'm very happy to approach them. Elspeth?
There was a recent, I'll go back and look it up, but I think there was something on the MS Nurses Australasian website. There was a presentation recently about that subject, some research that a guy in Australia was doing as far as working and the correlations, you know, between somebody working, not working, what have you. So, but it was like geared towards health professionals, I think. But I'll see if I can dig out that information somewhere.
That's excellent. And the great thing is, sorry.
What I have tried to implement with this group is, I don't know if you know anything about Time Bank. So
I've heard of the Sherwin Time Bank.
Yeah. So I'm trying to actually get the people with MS to connect with Time Bank, because there is always, you know, although I can't walk, there's other things that I can do, or, you know, there's just a sense of I didn't lose my purpose because I can't work anymore. So I'm trying to use the Time Bank to actually give that, in a sense, dignity back.
That's awesome. And as you say, you know, the physical side you may not be able to help with, but, you know, with your knowledge and everything else, I mean, Linda, you could possibly be giving me some lessons on Zoom. that could be a start.
Honest truth is, I have never used Zoom.
Are you in a time bank, Linda? Is there a time bank in Rolleston?
There's the Selwyn Time Bank. We've definitely got the Selwyn Time Bank. Yep.
Oh, I see. So you're in that.
Yeah.
But I know
I'm meeting tomorrow with somebody from the Hiranui one. I was just going to.
Yep.
I could mention.
There is all over New Zealand, and some of it is suburbs. So yeah.
And what I was going to say with the speakers and what Elspeth was just saying, that it was some Australian research that she had read, you know, we're not limited to just speakers from New Zealand. We can tap in with the ability to do this with Zoom. We can tap into anyone, really. And I think that's the beauty of it. So I think even looking further afield would be a great idea. So I'm very happy to take that on board and have a look who's out there that might have a specialism in that. So very, very happy to come back to you. And
I'm sure you're onto it, but in our last meeting with Jess, she was talking about someone that had done speeches around high intensity interval training, and I would very much be interested in more about that.
I have put a few feelers out, but I do need to chase them. So that's a good reminder for me, Eamon. I will definitely chase those up, because I did send some emails out. But yeah, I've made a note of that. Thank you.
What about all those services that normally when you go and see an occupational therapist, they would say things to you like, do you need to have a speech therapist, or do you need to have somebody that can teach you to swallow right, or all those type of services? If we can have speakers that actually come, that works in our hospitals with MS patients, that can actually come and give a session or something like that. And I think another thing is maybe to do exercises that you can do at home.
Excellent. I will. I'll certainly speak to our clinical team about that, because again, that was something we discussed on Monday's meeting, and I know that the waiting lists at the moment are crazy for speech therapists, and people are having to wait a long time. So a group session like that could be hugely beneficial. It's just working out how we make that work. And yeah, I will take that back to the team to discuss. Nurses, have you got any, oh, sorry, I shouldn't just say nurses. Elspeth and Deb, have you got anything that you want to add to that you know?
I do agree that that the wait list at the moment for speech language therapists is long, and it's partly because of COVID disruption. So, but I think it's a great idea if we could get somebody to come on either on Zoom or meet in the community. In a group session, it might be an economy somehow of their services. I'm not quite sure how that would work, but it'd be certainly worth looking into.
Yeah,
and discussing in our meeting. Yep.
Definitely. We've got another meeting this coming Monday, which we're all going to contribute to. So it's great to get this feedback. So if you have any thoughts afterwards and think, oh, why didn't I mention this? Please just write to any one of us so that we can raise it. We're just going to do some strategizing around the groups that we're offering, how we break them down even further. And yeah, just making sure that we're capturing everyone, because there's always change. I know certainly with our Smiling group, the lady who's been facilitating that is needing to move on. So we're looking for someone that may possibly want to facilitate that group of young people that I think are in their 20s and 30s still working. And yeah, you know, there's these opportunities coming up, and we would love to see them driven by those who are in the same sort of boat. You know, I talk a lot about our spouses and carers group, which is taken by a phenomenal lady called Gaynor Morris, and it's because she has been there as a spouse, caring for her husband, who sadly has now passed on. But she has just got this amazing ability to facilitate these groups because she's been there, she's done it, she's had to look for the support, and so she has a natural empathy with people. So again, if any of you are looking for an opportunity to sort of facilitate anything, please let us know. There are so many opportunities available within the MS and Parkinson's Canterbury team. And you know, we want this driven. I know I say this every meeting, but we do want it driven by our members in terms of content, because it's very easy for me to sit there and think, oh, we'll do this, that, or the other. But it ultimately, you know, if it ultimately comes from you as our members, it's really, really good.
Do you keep these long term?
The videos?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we've recorded the last one with Jess Deacon, which went down incredibly well, and we've recorded tonight's one with the permission of both Julia Ruckledge and Angela as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be the way forward, if I'm honest, Damon. For people to be able to watch them back, and for new members. Yeah, for new members.
Essentially having a bank of them where the nurses can point to new members to say, I have a look at this and this and this, they may really suit you and suit some issues you're having, sort of thing.
Yeah, so I've set up it's in the very embryonic stages, should we say, but I have set up a YouTube channel for MS and Parkinson's Canterbury, on which I have put the last one with Jess, and I will put this one. And yeah, I think it'll be a great sort of reference point for people to go to, and it would be good to share some other resources on there as well, providing we can.
Well, Kate, may I also say, what I see with a lot of people with MS is we're not actually sure what services is available to us. So a lot of people don't know about WorkBridge, LifeLinks, what CSS. Sometimes it is mentioned by the MS nurse at Dr. Mason's or at that office, but sometimes it's not. And there's a lot of people that have had MS for a long time that never knew about this. And I don't know if I know about all of the services. So it would be nice if we actually have those type of people coming just to give a presentation about 20 minutes, what services can they offer, what is the criteria on that.
Yeah.
And we can make use of that, because my understanding is that because we have MS, it does not give us what is the sickness benefit. So
yeah, I know that we recently had, in fact, she's speaking for us next week in Rangiora as well. We had the lovely lady from Lifelinks, Leslie Campbell, actually came and spoke for us. Yeah. Now, she spoke for us at the MS. I think she did speak for this group a couple of months back, but absolutely, you know, it's tricky that there's some criteria where you are eligible, and then there's other criteria that you fall under where you're not eligible, so it's still quite a grey area. And I think the same happens with MSD and with WINS and all of those organisations, that there's a lot of grey in there.
I think getting Loudon from HAPI Access Card to speak might be good, because that's pretty much available to everyone.
Oh, absolutely. I think even Carla, our executive manager, could possibly speak to that as well, because I know she's been heavily involved with the HAPI Access Card. Elspeth, were you going to say something? And I know Ingrid was as well, I think.
That's okay. I was just going to say, you know, also encouraging members to have that nurse appointment or that nurse consult, so that we can also link them in with these services and agencies. And those are, you know, all those, we gather a lot of information during that consult. And so if we do need to make those referrals, or like I say, link people into various agencies, we can certainly help to do that and follow up with that. Yeah,
I have seen the members that went directly to Lifelinks didn't have much success. Right. But if they go through a nurse from the MS Association, then they have success.
Right, because we're able to gather that bigger picture maybe, versus something specific that somebody might just think, oh, they just want help with this. But actually, when we come and look at the overall picture and see, you know, how they function and what have you, it creates maybe a better picture for them, so that when they do get connected with those services, they can see, okay, it's not just this one little area or whatever, there's some other overall things that are going on that might be helpful for them. But again, some of the services do relate to whether or not you have a community services card, and et cetera, but you know, all that can be unpicked. Yeah.
I wish for the day where they say that if you have MS, they issue you with a community service card.
That would be good.
Yeah.
Ingrid, were you going to add something?
I've forgotten.
No, bless you. I'm so sorry. I saw you put your hand out, but I didn't get there quick enough.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I was just trying to rack my brain. It was a few comments ago, but no, I've forgotten.
Yeah. Well, maybe what we could do, we're certainly the next meeting that we have got scheduled in, the last one of the year, is on Thursday the 16th of December. And I was planning for that to be an in-person event. So COVID just needs to stay out of Christchurch, an in-person event at in our gym, and we were just going to have drinks and nibbles and make it very casual. But I'm thinking that would be a great opportunity for Carla to possibly speak to the HAPI card, because she'll be there, and I know that she would love to see you all. So yeah, it would be great to have as many there as possible, COVID permitting, and to just end the year on a really nice, casual social basis for you all. And I would welcome any other ideas that you might have. So yeah, right, I think, where are we? 6:58, perfect timing. So I will send an email out to you all just with a few of the links that were mentioned. I'll wait for Angela to make contact with me tomorrow so that I can attach that document that she spoke about. And if you've got any questions at all, as always, please do access both Elspeth and Deborah. Please speak to Tara if you've got any questions on the physiotherapy side of things. And we will just keep you informed with everything that's happening. I think 2022 is going to be a very exciting year for MS and Parkinson's Canterbury. And I'm certainly looking forward to bringing some great speakers to you. So thank you all for your time. And please don't hesitate to contact me if I can help with anything. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.